Good morning, everybody.
All
Good
right. Good
morning,
morning.
Matt.
Morning, Michael.
Good morning, Becca. You turned your camera off. That's no fun.
I did. I'm fighting in the background.
I'll allow it. I'll allow it. We'll wait a few minutes for some more people to join. I know everybody is excited to know the punchline to the joke that I asked yesterday. Do you know what the punchline to the joke is, Matt?
I don't, but I'm ready for it.
All right. So the joke was, why did the employee at the calendar factory get written up?
Why?
Because he took a few too many days off the calendar.
There we go.
Yes.
There we go.
Yes. Right. There you go. This is how this
I
stuff
like it.
works.
Yeah,
I knew you would. I knew you would. All right. Well, we're getting some great people showing up. Really excited about today's webinar.
same.
Give me people a couple more minutes. So there's no OU game this weekend, Matt.
Really?
So I don't have my OU shirt on. Usually on Fridays, I've got during football season, I got my OU shirt on, but today I've got my Thunder shirt. So there is a Thunder
There
shirt or
is.
Thunder game tonight, which is crazy. It seems like basketball season is all of the time.
And
We
who are they?
just had a parade and won a national or the world championship.
I think they're playing they're playing the Kings tonight.
Yeah.
Sacramento, Westbrook.
Yep.
Good times.
Everybody. All right. Well, let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So today we're going to talk about how AI can help Matt's group, YHR, and the culture at Amshot by using AI to answer a lot of repetitive questions and really for twofold. One, to help Matt and his group focus on strategic things, but on the other side, for Amshot, if people don't know what their benefits are, they don't know what the rules are, they won't use them, and they aren't really benefits if people aren't using them. So both things are very important. So my name is Michael Thomas. I'm the CEO of Amshot. We've been around in the Oklahoma City market for 13 years. We're a managed IT company. So we do IT as a service for small and medium businesses in the Oklahoma City market. We look for clients from 20 to 150 people. We definitely love the core, so downtown Oklahoma City, but we do have clients all over the state and some around the country. So we're always open to talk to businesses that are interested in using technology. Our mission is to help those businesses and decision makers with valuable technology. So the solutions that we provide to our clients, they need to have value. There needs to be an ROI or an impact on their mission, or it's not worth doing. And we do that by having a really engaging environment for our team members to thrive in. Matt, you've worked with Amshot for many years,
That's
and
right.
you've been a key part of helping get our culture to where it is and helping us maintain it. So I'll turn it over to Matt to tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. No, that's a great introduction there, Michael, and I appreciate you including us in that. My name is Matt Tipton, owner of YHR. We're coming up on our 12th year. Located in Oklahoma City, servicing clients mostly in and around this area, but also outside the state. With remote work, it feels like we have employees just about in every state these days, which is always exciting, but also with its unique complexity. But we act as the HR department. So we've built ourselves as a kind of a corporate in-house model for those businesses. So employees have direct contact to us. And, I'm just super, very excited to be here with Michael and Amshot as we have been working together now for about a decade, it seems like. And just to see, the evolution that they've gone through with culture. But one thing I want to highlight, which I think speaks to where we're going with and this conversation today, is if you want to build something healthy, it's got to be intentional. And I think this is just another step towards that as a business, and we can never stop growing. So here we are 10 years later, and we're continuing to bring things into the fold with your team and my team and to other businesses that can only strengthen what they've created.
Thanks for that. Yeah, agree. So we're going to talk about a few things, definitely some cultural challenges, how agents can transform HR support. We named our HR AI agent HRED. That's Matt's branding there. I like it a lot. And talk about what it can do and some real world application scenarios. So actual things that it could help your employees with, and how AI and HR can work together going forward. It's going to be a fun conversation. Definitely, Matt and I have a good rapport, and we're excited to dive in. If you have any questions, put them into the chat. Becca's watching that, and she's moderating those, and she'll let us know. We will have a Q&A session at the end where we can really open it up if anybody wants to talk HR and AI. So let's first talk about some cultural challenges in modern HR. And go ahead, Matt. These are really things that you think about a lot.
Yeah, I when we think about employees coming into a business, and we sometimes forget about where they came from, and sometimes where they came from impacts, let's just call it past workplace trauma of what they may or may not ask, or what they should ask, or can I ask, and if I do ask, you know what what am I exposing about myself? That could be too much. And so there's just a lot of insecurities sometimes that comes with that. And as much as I like to think that we pride ourselves on being a very, welcoming place of education, hence HRED, to help out with those questions and those employees, there's still so much that goes unasked. And when that happens, unfortunately, it just creates a break when we think about just a comfortable place to have that open. We always say we have an open environment, but really, what does that mean? Well, it means to what extent somebody is comfortable bringing these things forward, which all the more reason I feel like AI has a place, another avenue that's easier, more inviting, less barriers to entry to maybe ask some of those entry level questions.
Yeah, I mean, we've all had the handbook, right? We've had the
That's
handbook. We
right.
signed it when we came on board. It's full of words. You're always refining ours. We're always, trying to add and, make sure we're staying contemporary. It's a living document, and
That's right.
people don't read it, on the regular. They're not sitting around like, you know, on a Sunday afternoon reading their
No,
employee handbook. So they aren't always aware, even though we're trying to communicate these things. We're trying to communicate them at town halls. We're trying to communicate these things in teams. Sometimes it just doesn't register, right? So if you've got another way to share this data, it's going to have a lot of value, not just in, keeping people in line, but really
yeah.
in that culture that you're trying to curate at your company. And so the more that it lives and breathes, the more success you're going to have, is how I like to look at it.
Absolutely. And just to parlay with that, when we think about, nobody's sitting around reading the handbook, and we go over it with them whenever they start, or we update a policy and publish that. The reality is the handbook is there for that employee whenever it's a necessity for the event that they're going through in life at that time. So, you hear those things, but they just breeze right by until you have an event. And then you need to know. And there's things that you want to ask, but maybe it's a little bit vulnerable to ask those questions.
Yeah.
And just adding another accessibility agent like AI to begin that conversation, again, another huge asset.
So let's talk a little bit about your team and what they're doing right now, and tee it up for how AI can help in the future.
Yeah, so we're trying to figure this out. I think this is still very new to us. But some of the things, and I like this slide here, HR teams, spending time repeating answers instead of building strategy. And a lot of that repetition really kind of goes back to what we were just talking about is, hey, we've had this education, we've gone through this, and being able to create that kind of hit list of most commonly asked questions uh, is is beneficial for those team members that are, have another place to go, so that it doesn't bog down, or maybe it takes us, till the end of the day to even get back to that employee. We don't want that. If there's a way to provide an answer in real time for that employee so they can make life decisions, or maybe it prompts the next question that does require reaching out to HR to have a conversation. At least that part's out of the way. They're informed and educated. And I think that's a huge step forward, not only from a time saver, so that we can continue to build on and our people strategy that we're working with, but also it makes for a productive conversation once we get to that specific situation for that employee. They're informed, and now we can help them take those next steps.
Agreed. So yeah, here's some of the risks, right? So when you do have that clarity gap, there are some weaknesses that can happen, and it really is an opportunity for AI to step in and be that, consistent voice in the organization that people can go to. And it's not just you guys. I mean, YHR and Amshot, we have similar clients. We have similar, our businesses are
Right.
similar. And it's not just you that we're trying to stop from fielding HR questions, but it's also my team as well. And so, Jody here, she works with you primarily on our HR issues, and she's the first stop, for a lot of these questions. And so
That's
not
right.
only is this helping you, but this helps us be more consistent and deliver the answers that we're supposed to. And it saves us time as well. So these routine things, they do have an impact. But we like to call these, routine questions that are repeatedly asked, and the answer is somewhere that people already have access to. We like to call that kind of noise. That's noise in
Yeah.
your environment, and if you can reduce that, you can really thrive.
One of the things we talk about in creating policy, and I like the word they use, is consistent. We call it the 3 C's. As policy should be clear, it should be concise, and it should be consistent. And I think what's really neat about what AI can do for businesses, they can do for us and our team, is that when we create these policies, if AI isn't able to interpret a direct answer out of the policy that we've created and we've fed it, uh, we need to change that policy. Like, we need to, how can we be more clear about this so we don't have this vagueness out there that creates all these second tier and third tier conversations that are unnecessary.
So let's talk a little bit about the agent HRED. So it's great. It's AI powered. We built it in Copilot Studio. It is available 24/7 because, sometimes you might have a question on your mind as a team member, as an employee, you're thinking about starting a family, you have a sick, family member, whatever it is that's on your mind as an employee in a company, and you want to know, you're like, man, I really wish I could ask my HR guy so I could get a good night's sleep. It's great that these answers can be doled out 24/7.
That's right.
The Yeah, and so you can see that Deloitte, it's going to increase employee satisfaction up to 25%. And it does, it helps people in different shifts, in different time zones. Because, there's a lot here that happens in our corporate headquarters at Amshot on Broadway, downtown, that's just kind of, chatter around in the kitchen, in the break room. And if you're a remote employee, you don't get all of that extra kind of knowledge, that intrinsic knowledge. We're big into hacky sack right now. So, people are talking about work stuff around as they're playing hacky sack. This allows everybody to get access to this information.
That's right.
I know this is a big one for you, and we've talked a little bit about it. Uh, so go ahead and pick one of those that you really like, and we can go for it.
Well, I like that, and this is the part that honestly blows me away. I'm not the tech guy by any means, but I love the idea of the AI responses that can be programmed. So the second bullet point, reflecting the company language, because there's so many of us out there. I'm sure some of you listening, you have a brand guide, you have your voice of who you are. Like, you've spent money investing in this for yourself, whether you're projecting that voice externally to who you're selling to or who you want to get the message out to, but also it's internal. We do that. We have a brand guide. And the idea that we're not just providing a frequently asked questions thing on our website or published to teams, whatever that may look like, but an actual personality that reflects who we are, that's having that conversation. I think it just, again, to your point on the previous slide, whether you're remote or in the office, you're hearing that same voice, that consistency when it comes to relaying that information, whether that's policy and culture, all those components.
Yeah, you're right. A little bit behind the scenes on how we built HRED is it has our core values. It has our brand guidelines, our brand voice. It has our mission statement. It has the values that we deliver to our clients. And all of these things help it understand and deliver a tone that is valuable. It's so important that I reached out to you with a quiz on how would you act. So I
Yeah,
trained, I took that information and used it to train HR Ed on how YHR behaves and what are some key phrases that you guys like to use so that when they're interacting with you, if they, get escalated out of a chat with HR Ed up to you, it's going to sound the same. It's going to feel the same. And that's really where these agents start to incorporate your culture more. And it's something that I'll be talking about as I talk through other agents that we build over the next few months, how important that is, that it reflects your brand, it reflects your the feel of your culture, because it's a mirror. You're looking into it and you're asking it questions and you want it to feel like you want it to feel. So
that's right.
great. We talked a lot about, and this is a lot of what the benefit to AI agents are, is they do reduce repetitive HR tasks. So, is it, hey, what are our benefit options? It can pull up
Yeah,
the PDF that we upload. What are
absolutely.
the workflows that we can improve so that we can get good data to your team faster. And that middle one is where I feel like what you've built at YHR, this really allows you guys to shine in what you do. So talk about the potential benefit of having more time to really focus in on the meat and potatoes of what you guys do.
Yeah, I think, when I look at that bullet point, freed from routine work, and the nuanced interactions that deepen connections. I mean, that is where we want to get to. We want to be able to have the escalated conversations of, I've researched, I've asked HR Ed, I've got the information that I need, but I need to talk to you about my unique situation. And that's where, AI isn't replacing that. It's
Right.
allowing that conversation to be an informed conversation from both sides and to be able to be the resource that they're really wanting from HR, not just this is the policy, good luck.
Right.
Right? That's not where we want to be. That's not healthy. But there's a lot of employees that come from that background, and that's what we're trying to shed
Yeah.
here at YHR and everything that we do. But now by utilizing AI, which is what I'm excited about, where we can take it further.
Yeah. It's exciting. It's really exciting. So here are some of the features. I know we've talked a little bit about, what, how we built it. I know we've talked a little bit about, what, how we built it. So it is built in Copilot Studio. We've built some pre-prompted questions. It has some defined escalation responses. And it is built so that we can grow and it can be modified. So there's a living document repository that it's looking for. And the way we built it is it does not use any of its training, it's or the internet. So it's just searching our policies. Um, what else are some of the capabilities? We talked about the brand and the feel of it. I really, yesterday we did our open enrollment. I can't wait to get in a regular cadence of, having those other resources automatically typed in there. I mean, I've emailed you before, like, hey,
Yeah,
who do I email about this? And, that's
sure.
me emailing you. That's a lot of, time and a lot of effort in just some simple something my brain probably should have remembered, but everybody in my company is going to be like, oh yeah, where is our dental insurance from? Well, I've got a question
Yeah,
about dental. Who should I talk to?
it is that. I mean, we don't think about it that much, but when we need it, we don't want to have to hunt for it, right? And that's right there, so much of a time saver for everybody. To not have to go through two individuals to get to you need to speak to. And it's not because the information hasn't been provided. It's just that's one more thing to think about of okay, where do I go to find that? And to have this one stop
Yeah.
bot that's there, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
It adds up.
Yeah. And I know, I mean, we have a folder, an HR folder that everybody can get to, and it has all
Sure.
this stuff in it. But, I just don't remember to go there, or, somebody's new and they've never been shown, or why not just have a persona that you can talk to? And it's really super beneficial. So yeah, we talked about the unique voice. That was a huge back and forth that you and I had.
Yeah.
Came up with a great quiz. Loved that. Let's see. I feel like we already kind of covered that stuff. All right, escalation pathways. We did build that in, and we are looking to monitor it. So if somebody types in something that is inappropriate or critical, it will notify the appropriate people of a conversation that happened.
That's
So,
right.
and I do want people to kind of understand that when you're talking to ChatGPT, the free version, and you say something, suspicious, they don't really notice. They're not building anything. But in a corporate environment, you build these agents. If you're putting information in there that is risky or vulnerable, it's going to throw a red flag. It's going to tell you. It's going to say, hey, that's sensitive. I've had to notify, someone. So that's important. But then the regular escalation pathways, if somebody gets into something that the agent can't answer clearly, it's going to say, hey, reach out to Matt at YHR or reach out to Ryan at Ello. Wherever it needs to go, it's going to have that escalation capability. We have feedback, so you can thumbs up, thumbs down the responses, and we will be tracking performance. So we have 3 agents. This will be the 3rd one that we've published into Copilot. And so we are tracking utilization to see how much value these are generating, because the more conversations people are having, that's time saved elsewhere in the company. And so that is a big part of these agents being able to see ROI, track ROI, and then drive engagement. Somebody comes to me and is like, hey, Michael, what's our bereavement policy? I can say, hey, I'm not sure. Why don't we ask HRED together? And,
Yeah.
I can sit down there and I can kind of show them like, hey, this is how we can do this, so that we can start capturing that and reinforcing these new habits. These are brand new. These are brand new habits, and we're going to have to teach people how to use them. So performance is important.
Well, and I think that's so important about the escalation pathways because that's really what we want to see happen. We know that individuals, and I think bereavement's a good example of that, are going to have their unique scenario. Okay. It's like, okay, now that I understand the policy, I've talked to HRED, then that next step of, okay, how does this pertain? How is this going to work for me? Because now I have to go out of state. I've got to take care of the will. I got to take care of certain things. And how is that going to impact my job? And what other policies may apply so that, my job doesn't disappear while I'm gone? There's a lot of things that compound with that. And we want to be able to have that escalated conversation to be as informative as possible.
Yeah. And informative is the key word, because
Yeah.
if you can capture any need for an HR question before it's an HR problem, it's
I
so
like that.
important and it's so valuable, right? And so I think this is going to be a great tool for you guys, so that you guys aren't, you can be ahead of more stuff. People do feel comfortable having a chat. It's a comfortable place, and
Yeah.
you get to do it on your own time. And so it's a great capability. You can have that for free. HR questions are better than HR problems.
There you go.
All right, so let's talk about some that we're working on integrating and getting feedback on right now. So PTO policy. So
Yeah.
What's the role? Or go ahead.
No, I think that's a great one. Handling PTO rollover inquiries, rollover policies, they vary widely. PTO is such a unique thing, especially for multi-state companies. For some states, you can put those rules in place, like, hey, you use it or lose it. If you're going to roll over, you can roll up to this amount. There are some states that you can't lose anything. Once you've got it, you've earned it. And so there's a lot that goes into specific state policies for multi-state companies, and building that into your policy helps those employees through their agent, kind of understand for them and their situation and where they live, what it means that they'll have accessible, going into the next year.
Yeah. And it's great because you can ask the agent, you can say, hey, I want to maximize my PTO policy. Can you give me a couple examples of how I could do that? And the agent's going to say, it's going to think about it for a second and be like, okay, I get it. Yeah. Here at Amshot, you're going to want to use, a lot of your time, but you are safe because if you do roll it over, you'll have more reserve bank next year. So you need to determine as an employee, do you want, to start building up some reserve bank, or do you want to just use all of your PTO now? And because you can have like more casual conversations and have it strategize with you, which is really incredible when you start thinking about things that are tougher to explain, like PTO policies, HSAs, like an HSA on top of a uh, DPC, and like you get all these acronyms, and
That's
you
right.
just you glaze over, and you're in the benefits meeting, and it'd be great to just have a friend that you could be like, okay, hey, HRED, I heard about this HSA. I don't know if it's good for me. Can you answer some questions? And it'll do its best to make sure that you are familiar with the policy
Yeah.
and can make these good decisions. Because something you like to say a lot is if you aren't aware of your policies and your benefits, you're not going to take advantage of them. You're not going to get them. And if you don't take advantage of them, you don't get the benefit. It's not as valuable. And so it really does help
Yeah.
with stuff like that.
And that's so true. I mean, we see that a lot, unfortunately, and that's where benefits, if they don't get talked about for so long, they just kind of disappear. And these are benefits. And speaking to, those in business that are out there listening to this, I mean, you've invested time, you've made executive decisions to implement this benefit. So naturally, you would want your employees to use it and know about
Yeah.
it. And because that's more of the people strategy and the glue for retention purposes.
And so another complicated one, FMLA eligibility.
Yeah.
And, it's different all over the place. And you know all about it. I know nothing. And so perfect.
We so this is a great one for us. We work again with all size companies, but it's really not and when we talk about FMLA, it's not so much about the companies that we're working for. It's more about the companies that the employees came from. When you work in a large business, you're just used to having FMLA. But then you go to a business that has less than 50 employees. I mean, you didn't know that was a thing, that, okay, if they have less than 50, it doesn't apply. And that's just has to do with, I mean, it's a federal act. It is what it is. And that is some education that we provide to some of our smaller businesses. Employees come to us is like, well, I want my FMLA. It's like, well, there isn't any. And it's like, but let me educate you on that even though this business may not have FMLA, but they do have this. We do have personal leave policies that we've built that's very similar to FMLA, and this is how that works, and this is how you apply for it, and this is how it's going to pertain to your specific situation, so that you're still taken care of, and so that you know that you still have a job even though you're going to be out for a certain amount of time, even though FMLA doesn't apply to this business. And that is a big education curve because there's just a lot of things in policy that we just don't know or take for granted just because that's where we worked and that's how it was done before. And all the more reason to have, again, this other extra education and layer of accessibility to ask those questions.
And I know it's something that we, at Amshot, we're always trying to strive to mirror that or, be in
Yeah,
parity with that. But, like you said, if you come from a big company, you just assume all these things are everywhere
that's right.
and, they're not. let's see. Okay. Definitely things like some of the more internal policies that we have that you don't bother with, but like how do we submit expenses?
Yeah,
How do we do just
it's great.
day in, day out things? How do you clock in? How do you clock out? A big one we're talking about right now in the office is overtime. What is acceptable use of overtime? How do you get overtime approved? If you have an agent that can explain it, you know, it helps. It's just another vehicle to get that consistent communication through. There's the different learning types. There's people that like to read, people that like to listen, people that like to watch. Well, now we've got this whole nother thing, people that like to chat. And so this is a new way to teach
Yeah.
people complicated things. Okay, so this is kind of a fun part, and where we get to try to figure out what the future looks like. And it's coming quick, and it's important that we think about it. And definitely, if you've got any questions, this is a great spot to ask. But yeah, here's some of the questions we've got and talking points. So you pick a favorite one, Matt.
Let's see. I'll go with number 2, a collaborative workplace. AI handles data and humans manage complex interpersonal dynamics. And I think even going back to your overtime example, because I don't want the message to get lost in this space, is that it's not about an employee not having the conversation. Like, we're not trying to eliminate the connection between employees and their supervisors. What we're trying to do is enhance the conversation, that it's a more informed conversation, that once you know the policy and understand it and how it applies to you, and now it's about having the conversation with your supervisor that's informed and say, hey, here's my situation, this is the project that I'm working on, I understand the policy, so what would you suggest is the best way to go about this so that we meet the client demands or deadlines based on where I'm at. And I think I really want to make sure that key point is heard.
Yeah, I agree. The valuable conversations are what really can be enhanced by this. I was at a conference in Houston, an AI conference, and if you know 85% of the policies at Amshot, you're pretty effective. Like you've been here a while, you know what's going on, you're listening to updates, and you understand the rules. And that's great. An AI agent like this is going to get you to like 90%. You're just going to get a little bit better. But if you're at a 5%, and that's
Sure.
how much of the policies that you understand, this agent can help get you up to that 80% level pretty quick, by asking it questions, just asking it to summarize, like, hey, give me a summary of our maternity leave, or give me a
That's right.
summary of this. And so it can help get those people up to that level so that all the conversations that you're having are in that 15% value piece of at the top, where you're spending time changing policy. Because when someone at Amshot, if you come to a meeting with me, you report to me and you're like, Michael, I don't like this policy, it's affecting me negatively in this way, I will listen and I will understand your problem, and I will take it to leadership, and I will see if we need to make a change to it. And that's how you can get ahead of these problems and make those conversations more valuable when you're having them with HR, when you're having with your manager.
Yeah.
And it's that piece is so important. Um, I like that the top one, the enhancing human judgment,
Yeah.
because if you sit down with your manager and you're talking about a problem or an issue, there's a little bit of escalation. There can be. And people make bad judgment calls sometimes when that's happening, when conflict's happening over a misunderstanding. And
Yeah.
so if you can do that, you can reduce conflict. You can bring empathy into those interactions that are and can be so sensitive. Your work is a part of your life, and it's a place where you spend a substantial part of your day, and you want that time to be
Yeah,
valuable and worthwhile.
well said.
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes with that force multiplier concept as well. So yeah, I do think that I'll go with growth projection. This is the agent. When I explain a valuable agent to clients, potential clients, I lead with HR. I lead with HR because it is a captive data set of policies that I know businesses are struggling sending and talking to their employees about. And so it is going to be a big piece of AI utilization. And I think in small and medium business, in big business, in enterprises, they've had tools like this that you could chat with, and they'd spend, tens of thousands of dollars building intranet websites that contained all the questions you might have about your benefits package. The small business, we have not had the resources to put together things like this, and AI is going to bring it to the small and medium business, which is great. Uh, I think in that second one, the sentiment analysis is going to be very interesting as well. Um, what do you think there, Matt?
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it. I am very interested in the sentiment analysis, personalized engagement, and where that's headed. I mean, I
Yeah,
keep coming back to that.
yeah. So we've started doing some sentiment analysis on our tickets. So tickets from clients that we're getting in, we are doing some sentiment analysis so that we can track over time, the heat level in the sentences. Having AI try to read between the lines
Yeah.
and say, hey, put up a red flag before it's a real red flag with a client and say, hey, this client might be getting a little frustrated. They're putting lots of exclamation points in there.
Well,
Ticket
it's that.
responses.
Yeah, and I love that because there's a proactiveness to that, to where whenever you go into that conversation, it's like anything else. The more data you have, the better that conversation's going to go. You're going to know how to approach that client. You kind of see where their heat level is, and that way you can hopefully bring that down. And a lot of that comes from tone and preparation, knowing where their stress points are.
We've already talked to most of these, the clarity and consistency in
That's a
HR.
big one. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, the three C's, the consistent culture. I do look at that last bullet point is one that we haven't talked about, and it's the truth. So the concept of technology is that it helps people do more with less.
that's right.
And so that's the concept. But when you talk about scalability, you're talking about growing with less. And this is great for you guys because you can spend more focused time doing less menial work, and same for us in our jobs. And this is really the same for everybody in their work, whatever it is that you're doing. AI is going to help you do more and increase your productivity some number. And it's super important. I know people are scared about AI, and there's a lot of questions about it, but in the end, it's just another tool, a lever, a hammer that we're using to get more stuff done faster. And I'm excited about that.
There's so much ROI that gets missed uh, during the onboarding processes, just due to one, not having a streamlined onboarding process to begin with. But the more you can utilize AI, especially in that beginning, that ramp up period for that employee to get them, to where they are productive, they are informed, and able to do, have access to what they need right out of the gate. That is a huge component. So just even HR aside, just being able to feed AI and capitalize on that. I know that's something that we continue to have conversations with all of our clients.
Well, you and I are talkers, so
That's
we are
right.
almost out of time. So I do want a quick plug. Drew and I will be back on the 20th. We'll post that link in the chat. And we're going to be talking about budgeting. So, technology budgeting. It is that time of year. It's November. Everybody's planning their 2026 budgets and planning. And we're getting a lot of people, that have a little extra money at the end of the year. They're trying to buy computers. So, be there November 20th. Talk to me and Drew about tech budgeting. And thank you everybody for attending. We'll turn it over
Yeah.
for any questions.
Awesome. So we just had a question pop up and it says, if I am using an HR AI agent to ask a question about a personal situation I don't want to share yet, will my information be confidential?
It will be, as long as it's not, dangerous, or if it's not going to set off some red flag. So, there's just like I would have to report to Matt some things that I hear. If you tell an agent something that it knows it needs to report, it's going to report that. Other than that, no, it's not going to share your chat history with me or with a team member here, unless you want it to. And you can say like, hey, this is a great conversation. I'd like to email this to, Matt or Jody or Michael. So does that answer your question?
Good question.
Perfect. Okay. Oh, yes, it was answered. Awesome.
All
Well,
right.
it looks like as of right now, there aren't any other questions. So give it back to
Okay.
you.
All right. Anything last on the agenda, Matt? Anything you got to say?
Nothing other than I think we're in a unique time. I'm excited for it. I'm learning every day from you and from others just on how to implement this in the responsible way. And honestly, it's for me, it's just I've been definitely the slow adopter in the sense that I do want to do things right, and I want to make sure I protect our business and protect our employees. And I think what we talked about today, which made me excited to do this, is a good first step into that. I see the value and I see where it can go. And I'm sure it can go much further than what I can see. So I'm excited about that too.
Yeah. It's the fastest moving technology I've seen in my career. So I've been doing technology stuff for 20 years. And, this is a big change. This is like the internet. This is like Google. But, it's not going to be that devastating. People think it's going to be this, major transformation. The internet was a big transformation, and it's great that we can, get this data and buy plane tickets and do all this cool stuff. And it did increase, the GDP and our efficiency as individuals. But there's just not everyone's going to be a power user of AI, but businesses, they will figure out how to make their employees more efficient over time. So, it's a really a great opportunity, not a big risk, in my opinion.
I like it.
All right. Well, I'm going to stop my share and end the webinar. Thanks for joining, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.